Okay, today's going to be a really brief lecture because I want to give you time to work on the lab. So let's take a quick look at the lab sheet, and then I'll give you a few hints on how to do that, and then I'll turn you loose on working on that. So let me switch the input over here over to the display. Let me hide that. Okay, so here's the lab sheet. And first off, notice that what you're going to do in this, if you watch the last lecture, it'll tell you pretty much everything you need to do this. But I am going to give a few hints here. And the hints that I'm going to give should help you figure that out. So the first thing it is, that you're going to be doing graphics in this. So you're going to be using Pygame. So make sure to install the Pygame module. In the lecture, I show you how to do that. If you have trouble with that, send me a message or otherwise get a hold of me. If you have even more trouble with that and we can't figure it out that way, then I'll be happy to come in and we can sit down together. Just make sure to bring a mask if we do that. Okay, not like a Halloween mask, an actual like mask to reduce spread of COVID. Okay, now, first off, the program says, write a program that uses the Pygame module to do the following. And you're going to write this as a script, so you'll put this in script mode in Python. And what you want to do is initialize the Pygame display. Well, to do that, you're also going to, there's some sub-steps involved in that. Importing Pygame, calling pygame.display.setMode to get the display surface is going to be in there. But between those two, remember, you have to call pygame.init. So you'll import, you'll initialize, and then you'll create the display surface. After you have that display surface, I want you to draw a happy face on the screen that is 100 pixels tall. So in other words, that 100 pixels tall has to be that size. So that means the face, if you use a circle, it's going to have a radius of 50. The next thing you're going to do is draw a Pac-Man on the screen. The Pac-Man should be a radius of 25 or 50 pixels tall. And then the ghost should also be 50 pixels tall. And then it should wait for 5 seconds. That means you're going to have to use the sleep command. So import time at the top, time.sleep, and then close the Pygame display and exit program. So this would be pygame.display.quit. Now, one other thing to remember is after you draw all three of these things, it would probably be a good idea, or you'll have to update the display. So you have to do pygame.display.update, so it will flip the frame up so you can see it. And then you'll be able to see that. So here's kind of what the output could look like. And you don't have to make it match exactly. This is just the one that I wrote to illustrate this. So here's the face. So what I want you to do is you'll have to think about the coordinate system. Remember, 0, 0 is up here. And if you made this 800 by 600, which is probably a good display size for this. So if this was 0, 0 up here, then this would be 799, 599 down here. And so think about that. This is about halfway down the screen and maybe about, what's that, a quarter of the way over. So maybe you would say, okay, I'm going to draw this thing on the screen, and this circle is going to start at, well, a quarter of the way across, or maybe it's a third of the way across, so 600. So maybe you'd say, well, let's do a quarter of the way across. So that'd be 150. So let's say the center of this face is at 150. The radius of it is going to be 50, and that would draw that circle. Now, one of the things you can do is, if you want to, you could kind of draw this out on paper or graph paper and kind of figure out what the positions of it are. So maybe you put like a scale across the top where this is 0, halfway across this screen would be 400. That would mean that this would be 200 here. So maybe that's at 200, not 150. And then halfway, there's 100. So maybe you put little tick marks across the top. Same thing across the side. And then when you draw the things out, you can get a good idea of where they are. The other thing that you can do is when you run this, test it as you go. So maybe you get this outside circle done first, run the program and see that circle show up. Once you have that working, go back and then add maybe this outline of this eye and get that working. And then maybe add this outline of that eye and get that working. And then maybe add the pupils, get that working. This is a line, that's a line. This is just 3 lines. So 1, 2, 3. And you can make your face look however you want. You can be creative if you want. You can make this a filled in circle that's kind of a flesh color or whatever you want. So feel free to be creative with this however you want. But what I would suggest doing is running that one at a time. The other thing that I would strongly suggest is putting comments in your code, maybe at the end of the line. So let's say you get the circle for the head done. So that's going to be a line, pygame.draw.circle onto the display surface. The color is white. The center is at, what do we say, 200 over 400 down, or 300 down, and then a radius of 50. And then run that and get that working and make sure it looks the way that you want to look and it's in the position you want to look. And then what I would do is I'd add a comment in my code. Remember, if you use a # hashtag symbol, that allows it to ignore everything up to the end of the line. And I would label that and say outline of head or something like that, or head. And then after I do this, I would label that like left eye, left pupil, right eye, right pupil. And then I'd put like a comment like nose, and I'd have this line and this line. And I'd have a comment that says mouth that has line, line, line. So if you basically have comments in your code to say what follows is this, what follows is this, what follows is this, that's going to make it a lot easier to make changes later on. Because if you just have a bunch of circles and a bunch of lines, then when you look at your code, you're like, well, which one was the head, which one was the eye, which line of the nose is this? It's going to make it much more difficult to make changes, edit the code. And putting the comments in there to your future self or to your current self or to another programmer who might look at your code in the future are going to be important for making the larger the projects we get, the more it's going to get confusing, and it helps to just put a note in there to yourself. So again, just put a little hashtag #, list out what your comment is. Head, #, left eye, #, right eye, and then the code should follow those. Now for the Pac-Man, essentially, think about that as a circle with this thing cut out of it. And rather than worrying about trying to make an arc or a pie chart, what I would do is just draw the yellow circle. And then if you think about this, this can be a black triangle kind of overlaying it that's going to erase that part out. But since we're not going to see all this until we do pygame.display.update, it'll show up looking just like it is here. We won't see it draw a circle and then cut part out. We'll just see a Pac-Man show up on the screen. And the eyeball here, that's just another little circle, black circle, again, cutting out what we already drew on there. So really, the Pac-Man can be 1, 2, 3 drawing operations. It's going to be a few more for the face. And then the ghost, the way that I did that here is notice that this top part is a circle. And then I drew a polygon or a rectangle below that, and then a polygon to draw this kind of little zigzag shape along the bottom to make the little fringe part of the ghost. This line thing here was just done with a set of lines. There's a pygame.draw.lines. And then up here again, some circles to draw the eyes. But again, use comments for that. And make sure the overall height of this matches the Pac-Man and is 50 pixels tall. So this should be 50 pixels tall. That whole thing should be 50 pixels tall, which means that the circle that makes up the top, that's probably going to be less than 50. So if you think about that whole height as 50, we're probably going to be somewhere around the radius or the diameter of that circle is going to be somewhere around like maybe 30. And if that's 30, then plan out where that's going to be. So think about what you need to do. Also remember that the order matters. So if you were to, for example, draw this mouth shape first and then draw the rectangle and the circle over the top, you wouldn't see it. It would be behind that. So think about drawing from the back to the front. So draw the blue stuff first, get that working, add the eyes, get that working, add the mouth, get that working, and then you're done. And then really that's it. So spend a little bit of time drawing this. I just want you to get used to the coordinate system used in Pygame. Again, 0, 0 is up here, and it increases in X going to the right, and it increases in Y going down. It's different than the Cartesian coordinate system where 0, 0 would be down here. 0, 0 is up here. So I want you to work on that today. Really, if you work on that, it shouldn't take you too long to do. If you want to get creative with it and make the face have ears or have a hat or whatever, feel free to do that. Just make sure the head outline is as described up here, 100 pixels tall. Okay, so that's it for lecture today. So let's go ahead and switch back here just for a second. And really, that's all for today. I want everybody to work on the lab, make sure to stay safe, wash your hands, and if you have any questions at all about anything, difficulties getting Pygame installed, difficulties with the lab or understanding what to do, make sure to send me a text message or an email or a chat message on Discord, however you want to talk. I'm here to help you if you're stuck, but just let me know. You got to let me know. Okay, and if I need to, I can come down and sit down next to you, help you with your code. But at least get started on it, see what you can get done, and I'll see you next time.